Hello my dear friends, and welcome back to another Star Wars news update. So this one is really going to focus on fan perceptions of the High Republic. The Acolyte has come and gone, and I thought it was a good opportunity to have a general discussion of how successful or unsuccessful the High Republic generally has been for Lucasfilm. As you're going to see for yourself as the video progresses, it's been more flops than successes. It's got its cheerleaders, but time and again, Star Wars fans have said no. But let's begin with one of the few successes, Young Jedi Adventures. We've spoken a great deal about the state of Disney Star Wars, with a focus on what I would label the more serious side of the franchise, that being the movies and TV shows, be they live action or animated. And while occasionally I've mentioned the more juvenile aspects of the galaxy far, far away, in light of a new development, it's worth reinstating just how big those aspects have become. Over the summer, I covered the statistics of just how popular the Disney Plus preschool High Republic series Young Jedi Adventures had become, and how its audience has grown exponentially in the last year. It's kind of like the Bluey of Star Wars, introducing the franchise to young viewers in a way that's not been done before through streaming. But I don't think Disney expected the series to get as big as it has. The positive feedback and viewership on Young Jedi Adventures has actually made Lucasfilm consider taking these characters way more seriously. And we're starting to see that in other forms of media. The brand new book Star Wars The High Republic The Lightsaber Collection is an illustrated guide to some of the more important lightsabers during this era, and many fans were pleasantly surprised to see a non-animated piece of artwork for a live-action version of Kai Brightstar, one of the main characters in the show. He's got an entire page dedicated to his lightsaber. This is being heralded as a huge step forward for these characters, and has given hope to those who want to see Kai, Liz, and Nubs in live action someday. It's important to note though, these characters are around a century before the Acolyte, and so if they were to appear, it'd have to be another live action High Republic show, which I don't think Lucasfilm wants to gamble on at the moment. But what I'm trying to say is, Young Jedi Adventures is bigger than Lucasfilm hoped, and recently on a trip to Disneyland, I saw this firsthand. So many families and their kids wearing the merch from the show. But this has sparked another conversation online. How successful has the High Republic been? There is a vocal group of readers concentrated in online forums and on social media who read and praise every book that releases from this publishing initiative. But in general, most fans haven't even touched it. So we're going to look at the statistics of how popular it's really been. Despite the marketing push, has the High Republic been a success? Two disclaimers. I'm not the biggest fan of the High Republic. I vehemently disagree with a lot of the ways the Jedi have been portrayed in the novels and comics I've consumed. But I got curious. I came across a really good breakdown of some of the statistics and the history, and it's titled High Republic, Low Sales. A lot of this I personally disagree with, but generally it's a good write-up. Let's take a look. In February of 2020, Disney Lucasfilm released a 4-minute preview video on YouTube for the company's next major Star Wars project, The High Republic. And I remember how excited Star Wars fans were. They were getting a new prequel era before the prequel trilogy. The massive publishing-oriented project would set out to tell sweeping, interconnected epic stories across a series of comics, novels, and magazines, all set 2 centuries before The Phantom Menace. Fan response to the first book, Light of the Jedi, was varied. While some took to it instantly, others were pretty unenthusiastic. I was in the latter, and if you're someone who enjoys the High Republic, that's absolutely fine, more power to you, but as I often say, it wasn't my cup of tea. The write-up goes on to say this. One of the first things to grab the internet's attention was the whiteboard, the creative focus group. Fans were pretty concerned about some of the Lucasfilm priorities. A lot of it made sense. Yes, some of the reactions were a little bit overblown, but some were concerning. Combine this with the preview art that featured a cast of heroes that some said looked nothing like they were from Star Wars. That's when perception for some fans started to sour. And then, my dear friends, there were some clashes between some of the High Republic authors and fans on Twitter. But politics aside, let's fast forward to the numbers. This comes from Circana, which has a data scan feature to show you rankings of various books. And more importantly, sales. There isn't really a more recent measurement, this is from a few months ago, but the point stands. The trend for the release of every High Republic book is that the first issue in a phase tends to do much better than every subsequent release. Light of the Jedi, the first book of Phase 1, sold 119,855 copies. The Rising Storm 59,779. The Fallen Star, that one dipped to 35,000. Then Tempest Run by Kevin Scott, 13,000. The young adult novels and young reader books generally trended in the 19 to 30,000 range, even lower for reference books, and Phase 2 saw an even bigger decline, with Quest for Planet X dipping to 2,986. So what is their commentary on this? They say, obviously one can easily see the numbers drop as time goes on. You'll notice a distinct pattern as we go along. A series' initial release tends to be its bestseller, with sales roughly halving with each following title, no matter the audience. Now, while some of these books are regular bestsellers in the sci-fi genre for young adults, the reality is, The High Republic does not perform as well as other Disney Star Wars books. When we're talking about the Aftermath trilogy, when we're talking about books like Brotherhood, other prequel novels, those generally do much better. So The High Republic has had some success, but nowhere near the amount that Lucasfilm wanted. This is why The Acolyte's failure seems even worse, because that was Lucasfilm's opportunity to make a very well-written show during this time period and get fans on board in the visual content, because visual media live-action shows will inevitably always do better than books. So that was their chance. Introduce The High Republic to a broad audience, make a badass Sith-oriented show set during the end of this era, and make fans want to go back and read the books. It had the opposite effect. And just to emphasize the point further, re-releases of expanded universe books under Disney which were written way before the acquisition still sell incredibly well. Timothy Zahn's work, both Legends and more recent canon books he's done, the work of Barbara Hambly, Kevin J. Anderson, the list goes on and on. There's a reason Lucasfilm under Disney continues to re-release these, often with new covers, because fans love those stories. And even if you want to argue that The High Republic does better than its competitors in sci-fi and space opera, remember Star Wars is supposed to be one of the biggest IPs in history. These numbers do not represent that. And keep in mind, The High Republic had an enormous marketing campaign, one of the biggest promotional pushes behind it in recent memory. If you look to these figures alongside Star Wars publishing at its peak, you truly see how much the brand has gone downhill. And I think the off-putting thing for so many is that it's set during a time that bears no resemblance to what fans are familiar with, and not in a positive way. Not the way the Dawn of the Jedi books did, not in the way the Old Republic did. So much of The High Republic just seems so empty. But what do you guys think? Have you read much of The High Republic? What do you think of it? And what do you make of all of today's news? Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. If you enjoyed this video, please be sure to give me a big fat thumbs up, subscribe if you're new, check me out on socials, and may the Force be with you, always.